Hey, what's going on everyone? Vega here for SerpentX Tech, and in this video I want to compare the performance between the AMD 7900 XTX on the left to the Asus RTX 5080 ROG Astral. And look at the size difference between these two. Absolutely huge. The 50 series is ginormous, and I know this particular model, or at least this heat-sink design from Asus, is on their 5090 series. So this is going to be about the size of a 5090 versus the 7900 XTX. As you can see here, this is basically a 3-slot design, and this is a 4-slot design. Completely different scale as far as size. This is almost 3 inches wide, while this is only about I think 2 inches or a little bit under 2 inches wide. Lengthwise though, they're about the same. So definitely not going to fit in your small form factor PCs, ITX builds, or anything like that. You're better off going with the Founders Edition. But I want to see the performance difference between the two. They should be about even or on par gaming wise, but I'm going to show you a few benchmarks, some charts, and then hit you with the summary towards the end of the video. First, let's get this 5080 installed. Alright, the 5080 is installed, and you could probably hear it, but the fans can get pretty annoying at high RPM. And the biggest point of contention is going to be that connector right there. We already have people burn up their connectors. Even though this one's sleeved, giving us a little bit extra extension when we close the side glass, it does raise some concerns, and you can hear the fans kicking up now. But Asus has built in something on their PCBs to where we can monitor the amps that each 12 volt pin or line is drawing, which I find very interesting and a good measure to have for all GPU models. Let's switch over to the software that they use called GPU Tweak 3, which in the top right of it, if you mouse over that pinout section, you could see each pin is pulling about 3.4, 3.5 amps, which is not bad. The card is doing pretty well. I think the highest I saw was maybe 4 to 5 amps, somewhere in that range. But that is nothing compared to what Devour saw on a single pin or a single line of almost 23, 22 amps pulling with their water-cooled card. So the fact that Asus has this built in, I find very interesting and is pretty cool. Now obviously I'm running triple 8-pin to the 12-pin, and I'm running a 5080 instead of a 5090. Obviously this is going to be completely different in the amount of amps being pulled on a 5090 compared to a 5080. However, the card's installed. Let's go ahead and run those benchmarks and see how the performance is stacking up against the 7900 XTX.
¡Hey! ¡Cuidado, niños!
Threat identified. They are hit. Damage taken. Heading tag. Time to end you. cosmic menaces all my life.
Chin up.
Better over.
Help, friends.
And now that that's out of the way, in summary, what does all this mean? Well, the 5080 provides okay-ish performance, but at what cost? You're better off going with the 7900 XTX. And unfortunately, before making this video, this GPU could be found for under $800 prior to the 50 series launch. Even a few days into the 5080 and 5090 being launched, you can still find this card for around $800-ish or lower. But now, because there's no supply for the 50 series cards, it has pushed the price up on this GPU. But my recommendation would be to go with the 7900 XTX if you could find it for sub $900 or $900 or less, or the 7900 XT, which still has 20 gigabytes of VRAM compared to the 5080's 16 gigabytes, and this has 24. So this is going to provide us better performance at higher frame resolutions, and we can see the impacts the 5080 is having, or some of the impacts that are happening on the 5080 in the 1% and 0.1% lows, right? Yes, the average frames per second increased on some titles, but you start to feel the effects, especially in Hogwarts and Thrones of Liberty. You start to feel the effects as the system stutters and stalls on the 1% or 0.1% lows, which are lower than the 7900 XTX, unfortunately. Yeah, when we enable ray tracing and all that stuff, the AMD series doesn't do too well. But pure raster to raster, like straight up, the 7900 XTX looks damn good price to performance or performance per watt. You can't complain with that. But again, if we try to search for this card, the 7900 XTX, right now on vendors, it's going to be anywhere from $1,100 to almost $2,000, unfortunately. Because they see an opportunity here. Oh, you can't get the 5080? I got you. How about a 7900 XTX that I marked up? That, again, were able to be found on the secondhand market for a lot cheaper. 5080s on the secondhand market are $1,600. At the most, $1,700. Good luck trying to find it at MSRP at any of the vendors. And if we look at the 7900 XTX, not parts only, they're around $950 up, which is unfortunate because, again, you could have got this card for around $800 or less. 24 gigabytes of VRAM, still a decent performer, competes in the upper tier section, right, below the 5090, sometimes below the 5080 in certain titles, not all titles, but certain titles, but still gives you a great performance per dollar. So that is the data that I have comparing these two cards together. I do love the design that the Asus Astro provides. A little bit bulky for my liking. I like the fact that I can monitor the 12-volt pins amps, and I think they did a better design than obviously the Founders Edition from Nvidia. But it's way overpriced. I would not recommend this card to anybody. The 5080 RTX Astro from Asus, I would not recommend that. I would say if you can find a 5080 cheaper, maybe like the Ventus from MSI, or maybe one of the Gigabyte WindForce cards where you don't need all this flashiness. It's just great performance, and you can get it close to MSRP if that is such a thing today, then maybe. But otherwise, the 7900 XTX, if you could find it for $900 or less, would be the better buy, in my opinion, unless you absolutely need to have ray tracing and you're tracing like the most quality thing in the world for your gamings, your MMOs, because it's not going to be good for first-person shooters. First-person shooters, you just care about raster and FPS. For quality MMO, RPG experience, yeah, ray tracing does improve it and improves the experience, it improves the quality. It's just so much more visually beautiful. But either way, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and do me a favor on the way out. Hit that like button, get subscribed, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, as well as check out additional links in the description. They'll support the channel and what we do here, and you just have yourself a wonderful day. Take care. I'll catch you next one.